Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Closing Comments here on November 11th. Let's jump right into our charts and see what happened in the markets today. First up are our December live cattle. We did see prices balancing out near the top end of that prior day's range. Yesterday's action, we did see a pretty strong move to start the week as the bulls rallied with some limit moves depending on the contract month, and seeing limit up action over there in the feeders as well. However, today the bears stepping in and slowing this thing down. Today's opening range printing the high of the day up there at 229.60 on this December contract before bouncing out throughout the rest of the day between 227 and 229. Pretty equal distribution of volume here. This market just kind of balancing out here after yesterday's big rally. At the moment, we still have some overhead supply that we could potentially go retest. Some light volume areas from last week that this market may need to backfill. Come back in here and pick up some of these leftover sellers that maybe have missed the bus from last week's down move. Expect to see some resistance if we do continue to pull back up here into the low 230s and our declining moving averages. Look for the bears to get aggressive up here and try and put some selling pressure on this market and try and turn this thing back down towards this prior week's low and this 200-day moving average. If we don't get any more upside here and today's high marks the high of the week, continued offers down here below today's low at 226 and a quarter should get this ball rolling lower. Have the bears attacking this 200-day moving averages, this 200-day moving average, and potentially see some more lower prices. So look for some more resistance to start stepping in here. This market still has a lot of work to do before we can get back here into uptrend territory. Bulls want to see this thing kind of balance out here and create some structure to trade around before we commit to any new uptrends. But we still have a lot of work to go before we can get that accomplished. Look for more resistance to step in here. Remain defensive here from the long side. I encourage everyone to remain cautious and defensive and wait for this market to balance out, create some good structure to trade around before we get back interested in the upside. In the meantime, expect this volatility to stick around and potentially more downside to come. January feeders seeing a little bit of rejection here today as well. We did see a gap open higher with this market hitting the ground and rallying up towards the high of the day at 333.5. Did test that high a couple times throughout the early part of the day, but then a pretty weak finish here from the bulls put this market on the lows towards the end of the day. Still didn't manage to fill that gap. There is a 2-tick gap here between yesterday's high and today's low. So at the moment, if the bulls can keep today's low supported and keep that gap open, we could see this market continue to pull back up here. We do have a pretty heavy concentration of volume from last week's highs near the 336 mark that may need to be retested and backfill some of this low volume area from last week as well, kind of like we saw up here during the highs of the day. But this market may need to pick up some more of these leftover sellers that we're waiting back here at 336. If this market does continue to rally, we expect to see these declining moving averages and these supply zones up here to offer more resistance and get the bears aggressive. And we should see some downside come from there if this market continues to rally up into this resistance. However, if today's high marks the high of the week below the gap fill today at 328.82, filling that gap from yesterday's action to today's low should get the ball rolling lower here and see feeder prices continue to trade back down towards this 200-day moving average. Seeing resistance already stepping in here in these both live and feeder markets. We could see this market continue to chop up here around these prior week's supply zones, but we expect to see the resistance step in and prices turn lower again and see the bears trying to attack that 200-day average again. Encourage everyone to remain defensive here and cautious, as there still could be some more downside to come here in this cattle market. Next up are our December corn futures. Today was another pretty quiet day of action, but the bulls just continuing their slow grind higher, cutting back up here across this 10-cent range we've been trading in over the last 2 weeks. Expect to see this market rally back up here towards this 435 to 437 area. Resistance should step in. Bears are going to look to start selling these range highs again unless the bulls can get a close above that 437 mark. Above there should open the door to some uptrend territory, but this market seems pretty comfortable here. Look for this thing to keep trading sideways in about a 10-cent range here. Next up are our crude oil prices. We did see a little bit of a rally here today, breaking out above those prior 3-day highs at that 60 half mark. This market rallying right up there towards that 50-day average, just bouncing off of it, but finishing near the highs of the day. At the moment, this market just has been pretty comfortable here in the low 60s, so we could see this thing continue to chop sideways. A close above 61.5 could have this market pushing up here towards the mid 60s, but it's going to be a tough break from there. Look for the resistance to step in and keep this market kind of chopping up here in the low 60s and potentially get a slow bleed lower if we do get some more offers back down there below 59.5. And last but not least, our equity markets continue the rally here today. We did see a little bit of divergence amongst the three of them. Nasdaq was the weakest of the bunch today, showing a little bit of a down close, while the Dow was leading the pack. A lot of upside here on this Dow index today, which really kept this market rolling. Nasdaq tech stocks just took a little bit deeper of a pullback today inside that prior day's range, which kind of put a weight on the S&P here today. Pretty quiet range day here, while the Dow was up strong. But at the moment, pretty nice recovery there into the close today, and already getting some good upside action here in the evening session. Expect to see these equity markets continue to rally. We should see this market heading up there towards these recent all-time highs before the week is up. Stock market remains strong and healthy. Look for prices to keep on climbing up into the year end. That's all we got for tonight. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Catch you guys tomorrow.